Welcome to the Magdalene Voices, giving voice to those silenced for centuries through sacred conversations with beautiful, illuminating souls. I am your host, spiritual business coach, mentor, catalyst, and facilitator, Maria Saraphina. I serve experienced, soul-driven, heart-based spiritual entrepreneurs, business owners, Magdalenes Rising, and radiant beings just like you with the expansion and growth of yourself and your business. Aligning you with your deep inner truth, bringing to life that which you're here to birth, and supporting you in expressing your soul's divine purpose through your being and your doing in this lifetime. If you haven't already, I highly encourage you to join my newsletter to stay connected and updated. You can do so on my website, mariasaraphina.com, where you can also find previous episodes and their show notes. And if you have ever wondered about your Magdalene connection and calling and whether you are a Magdalene, I invite you to download the free Magdalene Blueprint I've created for you. Go to mariasaraphina.com/AYM to get it. Also, if you're a soul-driven, heart-based spiritual entrepreneur, check out my show and podcast, Spiritual Business with Maria Saraphina. It's designed to inspire you, empower you, guide you, nurture you, and activate you. You can find it on YouTube as well as everywhere podcasts are being broadcasted, or click the link in the show notes. As always, I encourage you to listen with an open heart and an open mind and take only what serves you and leave the rest. Here is today's episode. Hello, Radiant One, and a very big and a very warm welcome into this episode in which we are going to be, I was going to say diving in, but it's probably more appropriate to say be rising with the Magdalene. I'm going to be sharing about the Magdalene Rising. If you have watched or listened to the episode that I shared with the gorgeous, beautiful Magdalene Anna Otero last week, or if you have been seeing the clues that I have been dropping on social media, or whether you've just been sensing something different in the grid, in this episode I'm going to be diving into that. Like I said, you may have seen or watched the episode that I did with Anna last week. It's not a prerequisite, so you don't have to stop this video and run to that one, even though it is a brilliant episode. So I do encourage you to watch it or hear it at some point. During the Easter of 2020, the Easter that is just past, I had a very different experience with Easter than I've had in the past. Starting all the way from Palm Sunday, I felt very connected to the energies or the frequency and the vibration of the Magdalenes, of the Essenes, of Yeshua, of the Magdalene, of the story of everything. It was as though I on some level of my being was walking that path. And if you haven't heard Christine Oyken, who shared the deeper meaning of Easter, that's another episode that I recommend that you watch or listen to, because she explains the deeper meaning of Easter and the deeper meaning of what happened in that story and how it unfolds for each and every one of us over and over and over again, in different ways. And as I'm sitting here beginning to share this, that's actually what I realize now, is that I had an unfolding of that ancient ritual, ancient way of processing or moving through things. Because as I mentioned, when Palm Sunday appeared, I just felt that arrival, that knowing that something was about to happen, that a shedding was about to happen, that a death was about to happen, that a surrender, that a walking of the underworld was about to happen, for the remembering, the reminding, the reuniting, the reunion of myself, putting back together the pieces restoration. And so I leaned into that, and I surrendered into that. I honestly did not do a whole lot of things. It was more of a state of being. It was like a state of knowing, a state of allowing, a state of just, yeah, allowing. And then we of course moved through the Thursday, and I felt very connected, very connected to everything that was going on. I felt us descending into the underworld or the netherworld on the Friday. And then on Saturday, which is not the day it normally happens, but on Saturday, for me, the Magdalene rose. It was the Magdalene Rising. And I cannot remember now with my mind. I cannot remember what happened. I only know what I now have on paper. I only know what I now has as a knowing, as my truth. I can't tell you what happened in those hours. I can't tell you what I did or how it happened or how it came through me. I just know that at some point it was there. It was there. And maybe I should start by sharing what I see as the Magdalene Rising. First of all, I want to be very, very clear that when I talk about the Magdalene or the Magdalene Rising or Yeshua or Mary Magdalene or any of the Essenes or the Magdalenes, I'm not talking in any way, shape, or form about religion. To me, you can be a Magdalene and belong to any type of religion of the world or none of the religions of the world. You can be an atheist or deeply spiritual. You can be very practical and linear, or you can be very flowy and non-linear. It is a way of heart. It is the way of love, and it's a calling from within. And what I now know in this very moment is that this is literally the reason why I started this show and this podcast. Because of my own Magdalene Rising, because of my own curiosity, because of my own wanting to understand and to know the truth. And when I say the truth, now, today, and always, what I mean by truth is my truth. I have always said, and I will always say, that what I share is my truth and my truth only, and it is up to you to discern. It's up to you to taste and to see what resonates and what doesn't. And I always say, take what serves you and leave the rest. So now that I understand that the Magdalene Voices was and is and continues to be part of my exploration of the Magdalene Rising, and also part of wanting to understand, because when you are a Magdalene Rising, you've been called by her, and you probably have had another experience. You've probably had an experience with Yeshua or Jesus first, and then she starts calling you. It's like he's preparing you, and then she's like, okay, it's time to do the work, love. And then she comes in. That is what brought you to the Magdalene Voices. That is why you've either listened to all of the episodes or have just found it in this very moment. Whether or not you're either one or the other, like there's something within you that's been calling you to this voice, to these voices, because what I share and what the sacred conversations that I have with my guests in these episodes are the way of love. It's the way of heart. It is love-based people sharing who they are in the world, expressing that, and they're choosing love as their way, love as the way, and the way of love in every area of their life, whether it be personal, spiritual, business, emotional, physical, in any way, shape, or form. And you may be in the beginning of your journey and you may not even know why you're here listening to this. You may be conscious about it. You may be unconscious. Still, there is that pull within you that's like something is pulling you into these episodes. Something is pulling you into these conversations. And that to me is the stirrings of your Magdalene Rising. That is the pull, really. I don't know whichever else way to describe it. And to me, that is a seed that has begun sprouting. It's a seed that was planted in you eons, lifetimes, billions of universes away. The seed was planted within you and it has begun sprouting because of where you're at right now in your life, in your business. Something has opened that seed and it's begun sprouting, which is where you're beginning to look for, both within yourself and without yourself. You're beginning to look for what I call the grid, the golden grid. You're beginning to look for those you came here with. You're beginning to look for us coming together in truth, alignment, and unity. And if you have been called by the Magdalene, in my experience, and this is something that I've shared, and it's not just my experience because I hear it whenever I come together with a Magdalene, someone who's heart-based in their truth, or heart-based and love-based, whenever they've been called by the Magdalene, most likely your life either has dramatically and significantly shifted or changed, or it is about to, or you're smack in the middle of it. One of the things that I discovered, or as a revelation when I sat down with Anna Otero last week, was how I've been associating the Magdalene, Mary Magdalene, with the Tower card in tarot. She shows up in our lives when shit's about to be burned down, when things like it's the Kali Ma energy, when things are just about to be stripped, when you're literally about to be quote unquote stripped, or have the feeling of being stripped of your, maybe your identity, being stripped of your limiting beliefs, of your negative thought patterns, of your life as it is, because you're ready for it. And as we go through that, what I call a dark night of the soul, it's a shit place to be in. However, knowing what lies on the other side, I can only rejoice. And maybe rejoice is not the right word, because I do also have deep love for you if that's the current situation you're going through. However, I do, as your guide, your catalyst, and your facilitator, know what lies on the other side. And so while I am holding space for you, while I am guiding you, while I am facilitating, while I am catalyzing, I also have deep compassion for where you're currently at. So that to me is something that is deeply, that's a huge part of the deep sign of you being called by the Magdalene, is like your life is just changing, and they are present with you, whether you see it or not, feel it or not, sense it or not. You're always being, it's that quote that, says like, when you come to the end of your life and you look back and you see these footprints in the sand on the beach, and they're during your hard times, there's only one set of footprints, and you ask, God, why did you abandon me in the times that I needed you the most. And God, or I think in this case it's actually Yeshua, who says, those were the times that I carried you. And that is, so you are, whether you see it or not, whether you feel it or not, whether you sense it or not, you're being carried in those moments. And if you're someone who has gone through those dark night of the soul, I am sure that you understand what I'm talking about. You know how needed that transformation was. And the drama of it, I don't know if drama is the right word, but the fierceness of it, to me, seems to be quote unquote diminishing the more that you lean into it. So the more that you understand, oh, there's something that has to change or shift in my life, and the quicker you quote unquote accept it, the quicker you acknowledge it, the quicker you surrender into it, the less painful, the less dramatic, the less tearing apart, falling apart it becomes. And also, when you're doing the work as a Magdalene of on a daily practice or a daily basis, choosing love, aligning with love and your truth, there's also that part of you that is still and calm. So while the world may be falling apart, or falling down or apart outside of yourself, within you, you carry that stillness, that powerful, resonating stillness that allows for you to move through life with that, whatever else may happen outside of yourself. That's my experience, and I know that I'm hoping that this resonates with you. And once that transformation has begun, there's really no turning back. And if you're here listening to this, you know this already. Or if you don't, sorry, oops, I'm sorry to break it to you. There's really no turning back. If you've come into my space, and if you've come into my space and if you've been called by the Magdalene as I see it, there's really no turning back. And that is not to, I always say this, you're not tested by the universe, you're strengthened. So the getting rid of limiting beliefs, the destructive patterns, negative thoughts, all of these things are not to tear you down, but to build you up. It's to clear that space and create that clean slate and place for you to stand so powerfully in who you are and what you came to do and be in this world. And that is brilliant and magnificent. And that, to me, requires the way of love. It requires active choice of love in every area of your life. And so you do the work. You do the work. What I was called, what was on that paper when I came back into where I was at on Easter, not Sunday, but Easter Saturday, is that for the longest time, I have seen us being connected. Over the past, I would say, since the beginning of the year, since the beginning of 2020, I have been surprised by the amount of views and listens that the Magdalene Voices has, and also my other podcast and show, Spiritual Business Podcast. And what I began seeing was, us as a golden grid. I don't know where in the world you are. I don't know if you're watching or you're listening, but what I see you being is part of this golden grid that is spanning the whole entire planet. And together we are forming this golden grid that is here for the, elevation of the frequency and the vibration of this world and the worlds beyond. I see us being linked together as Magdalenes through our hearts, our purposes, our souls, and our being. And I have been called to bring that into this world in the form of, and I'm saying this in surrender because truth be told, right now I haven't been given a whole lot of information about what will be in this space, which I do know and see is part of my own expansion and growth. Because with my Virgo rising, I would be organizing, I would be structuring, I would be creating, I would already be in that space, and my Aries sun would be like just going forward and getting it done, and everything would just be like move forward with fire. And part of my own journey, part of my expansion and growth is to be leaning into that is not the way that this is going to come through. What I do know is that it will be a monthly membership where we are coming together, linking in, and I see us, like I said, spanning the whole entire globe. I know that at the time of Yeshua and the Magdalene, there were other avatars on this planet who were here, each and every one of us, to implement the new paradigm. That is when the shifting happens. That is when the shifting of the implementation or the seeding of the new paradigm versus the old paradigm. And having moved into the age where we're now at, the new paradigm is here. It is no longer something that we're talking about. We as Magdalenes are living this life all across the globe. And other than just quote unquote being the midwives of that new paradigm, we're also here to truly anchor it in. And that happens through the discipline, the devotion, the commitment, and the surrender. And together we are going to be, or we are elevating that frequency and that vibration, shifting consciousness of the world and the worlds beyond. And even as I say this, I see us forming this beautiful, beautiful golden grid. You know that it is through you that this world will change. It is through us that this world will change. And so it is my mission. I don't know if mission is the right word. Purpose is not even the right word. It is my duty. Talk about a word. Whoops. Okay, that's another episode. I see it as my duty because of the skills I have, the power I wield, the work that I've done. I see it as my duty to link us together so that we might come together for the elevation of all to the highest of all. Just like no biggie. That is like, woof. I knew that. It's so funny because when I started this episode, I do have notes. I will say that I did download stuff before doing this, but I also knew that things were going to come through that I had no idea, because it's like, if I'd known this before, if I had been talking about duty, I'd be like, no thank you. I'm only human. As much as I'm a Magdalene Rising, I'm only human, and that's also what's going to be part of it. One of the things that I really, really want for us to have in that golden grid, the golden grid as I call it, the Magdalene Rising, the golden grid, what I want to have is I want for each and every one of us, if you're joining, I want you to share your Magdalene experience in the group or in the collective, because I want just to highlight how many, many, many different plethora of ways that there is as a Magdalene Rising, whether you are someone who has a business or whether you're not someone who doesn't, whether you're someone who wants to have a business or whether you don't ever want to have, like, that you're still being called and your service is still worthy and valued. And so I want to share, because I also understand that there is and maybe this is just me, but there's this we each and every one of us have a beautiful, powerful story with the Magdalene or the Magdalenes. And I want to uplift that. I want to inspire that. I want to guide, catalyze, and facilitate that. Now, this is something that does not come without doing the work. You being here, you listening to me, you have heard me reiterate this over and over and over again. You might be tired, like cray of me hearing this, but it requires for us to do the work. And it requires for us to, because of the gnosis, the wisdom, the knowledge, the activation of your divine feminine essence within you, it requires for you also to activate and engage your divine masculine. And that means doing the work. And that means doing the work, being who you came here to be, doing the work. And when I say do the work, it does not necessarily, although I do see this in a lot of Magdalenes, is having your own business. But it is also, if you're someone who has a magnificent job and you absolutely love and adore your job, doing that through that, having that expression through that, the way of love, pouring your heart and your service and your love into that. But it is about, there is an activation, there is an action part, there is a doing part. Because if we just sit there with the wisdom and the knowledge that you have, what I know to be true is that you will end up being miserable because you're not using it. You're not using this bodysuit that you got to be the expression of God. You're not using it to allow through you that which is to come through you. You're not allowing yourself to serve those that you're here to serve. One of the conversations I had about service or leadership is that, to me, leadership is being of service. It is the highest service, because you understand as your leader in this golden grid, the Magdalene Rising, the golden grid, my ultimate promise is to be of service, so that I might facilitate, guide, and catalyze you. That's fake as well. Okay, so again, doing the work for me requires discipline and devotion, which are some of the things that I'll actually be taking this up in an upcoming, I think after the next episode, I'll be speaking to that, because for me it seems to be lost that there's something that's gotten lost in terms of discipline and devotion and hard work. So I'm going to do a whole episode, because otherwise I'm just going to go off a tangent here. Two things I want to share. Number one, if you have not already downloaded the free Magdalene blueprint that I've created for you, I would highly encourage you to go ahead and do that. You can do that at mariasaraphina.com/AYM. That will literally be your first step in recognizing who you are as a Magdalene. It will help you remember. It will help you remind. It will help water the seeds that are sprouting within you, so that you can assume that. And the second thing is, if you want to assume your place within the golden grid, or you're feeling called or nudged to be part of this collective, if you're remembering who we are together, then and know that we have been, and this is important. So this is not our first rodeo. You and we have been doing this work across multiple lifetimes, spanning eons of time and a plethora of realms and universes, and we're just coming together again. It is not new. It is the work that we've been doing, and the golden grid is our way, is our community, is our collective of coming together again. And if you know that's calling you, what you can go ahead. So the portal will open on and this was so, again, I know I've shared about living a guided life recently, and when I was sitting with when are the doors going to be opened, I was called to open the doors on June 21st, which is the summer equinox. And I knew that I had chosen a specific day, the equinox. And then I realized after, I've actually chosen to open the doors to this on my favorite day of the year. Because if you know anything about me, you know that I love warmth and the sun and the light as much as I adore the shadows and the darkness. I do thrive being a Procyon starseed. I thrive on sunlight. And so it was in a conversation that I was having with a friend that I realized I had chosen to blow open the portal and the gateways to the Magdalene Rising, the golden grid, on my favorite day of the year, which was so magnificent. And then we begin on July 1st. So the doors open on June 21st, and we begin on the door close on June 30th, because I want us to come together. I want to get to know everyone. I want us to come together and form that golden grid. And the doors won't open for another 3 months. It is currently the way that it's going to be is that it's going to be opening on the equinox, and I'm not sure about the winter equinox, because normally that is my time where I withdraw into my solstice winter cave. So it won't be open for another 3 months until the autumn equinox on the northern hemisphere. Of course, I'm talking about the northern hemisphere. But if you are on the southern, I would love to have you still, because I can see us again. We would need everyone in every continent, on every face of the earth, to come together. So if that is something that's calling you, you can go ahead and you can sign up so that you are on like the first responder moves, like those that will get to be notified the first, and that you can do that on mariasarafina.com/the golden grid. I'm just checking in to see if there's anything else that wants to come through in terms of the Magdalene Rising. Yes, just to reiterate, like I said before, this is not religious. If you are a Muslim or a Buddhist or a Sikh or any religion, indigenous, whether you are white or black or brown or yellow or red, or whether you are recognizing yourself with a gender or not, whether you have whatever your sexuality may be, whatever your beliefs may be, if you're called by the Magdalene, I would encourage you to just follow that lead. And whether or not you choose to join the Golden Grid, your journey continues. That is what I had for you today. I love you. Take care. That is what I had for you in today's episode of the Magdalene Voices. I hope it served you well. If you're listening to this via podcast, know that there is a link to my website, mariasarafina.com, in the show notes, and you can go there for all the deeds and the details. Finally, I hope that you will take a moment to either leave a comment or a review, or share it with a friend or on social media if you feel that it served you.